Key takeaways from Georgia Tech head coach Brent Key presser. What he had to say today and what really stood out when you read through the tea leaves. We talk about it today on the show. What's going on, everybody, man? Welcome back to another episode. Appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hype up the video, man. We are back. Been really busy, man, with high school football content on the channel. Appreciate everybody running up all those videos. Milton versus North Cobb, Douglas County versus Newton, man. And obviously the one I was at, my favorite one, TCC, man, versus Colquitt County, man. But y'all know we got to get back to the regularly scheduled programming, which is the content. Yes, sir. When we talking Georgia Tech head coach Brent Key. Okay, y'all seen the presser. Shout out to y'all. Y'all been running up the presser. But we're gonna read through the tea leaves today and just highlight a couple of things that he said that really stood out. Five most important things from Coach Key and what was said obviously in the presser. Okay, so first off, we're gonna start with Alberto Mendoza. There's two things that was mentioned for Alberto Mendoza in this presser, and it was a heavily asked press conference relating to Alberto. One of them was, how did he evaluate Alberto Mendoza when deciding to get him basically out of the portal, right? And Coach Key basically alluded to having a really good staff, having to vet different things, talk to parents, right? And just being able to get a good feel for the player and everything like that. I'm paraphrasing also, by the way. Here is what he had to say per quote. It is such an inexact science with the transfer portal because you have such a small window to make decisions on guys. So the high school coaches where he has played competitively, other people on the team, coaches, I mean, we try to leave no stone unturned when it comes to evaluation, especially at that position. People know him, your friends, your just competitive makeup. There's so many things that go into it, and it's such a short period of time. It was such a turnaround. Wham bam, and there are three schools on him. You're fighting your butt off to get the first visit, right? Then you've got a really a 24-hour window to ask all the questions, right? Because like you said, you'll have the visit, but remember, Mendoza had other visits lined up to other schools. So you have that 24 hours to really assess, is he a fit for my program? Will he be able to lead this team? Will he be able to make the plays necessary to lead us to victory? Right? And does he have the competitive makeup when adversity hits and different things and problems arise? Can he handle that and not, I'm saying, kind of be, with a bad attitude or not being able to handle that pressure, right? Because there's pressure that comes with the quarterback position. And you have to evaluate everything. You got to ask questions, call people, figure out different things, and figure out is this a guy fit for your team? Because one bad apple, one rotten apple can lead to a whole bunch for the whole team. So I think that was an important part of the process that obviously Coach Key talked about, right? And he talked about the trust in the staff, my reliance on my staff because we're vetting guys out. They're interviewing us and we're interviewing them. It's a two-way street when it comes to that. It's a different take than high school. I do think high school recruiting has become more professional over the last year, but you have to ask the right questions. You have to ask the hard questions. You have to ask to call as many people, to talk to as many people as you can. You have a chance to sit down with his parents, this type of people that are the character and makeup of the family, right? That's key in what Coach Key had to say too, because he talked about the character and the makeup of them, right? Of these players in the family. If you see the dad is a little bit different or what I'm saying, something's off, that's gonna make you think, oh, okay, that can probably because kids subconsciously pick up stuff. So if that part's off, that might have disseminated through the kid, right? All that stuff like makes you think, what I'm saying, and if that's a fit or not. So I think that was pretty important. The last piece of what he said was he was dead set on getting a quarterback with multiple years, right? When we looked at this team, you talk about Graham Knowles, right? You talk about obviously Grady Adamson, right? And then obviously they had, um, gosh, who am I missing? It was Aaron Follow left. So they had Graham Knowles, Grady Adamson, and then I don't think they took a quarterback. I feel like I'm missing somebody. Cole Bergeron. They had Cole Bergeron as well. Sorry, I couldn't think of his name. Those three, right? So when you look at it from the top to bottom, you was like, okay, this room is talented, but there's no experience. Now, while Mendoza has limited experience and he's just a sophomore, as Key alluded to today, he was a guy you felt more comfortable with having 25 career pass attempts, playing late in games. He had a little bit of that experience compared to these other three guys that didn't really have much of any, what I'm saying, compared to it. And those multiple years make a difference. And I think that's why he obviously brought in Mendoza, right? The next thing was the intelligence, right? The key part of all this is everybody's been asking about the volume of plays, which has been the number has been 250. George Godsey has so many plays. It's the NFL pro style offense. Can Mendoza handle it? Right. That was another key piece in what he said. And basically he said he's got command. He knows where all 10 guys are supposed to be, where all 11 guys on the defense are supposed to be. But at the end of the day, you say these things and he says not starting a college football game. He's a sophomore, right? He's going to take his lumps and bumps. That's on us as coaches not to put the whole thing into the arsenal to start, right? Basically, like, hey, let's tread water. Like, let's not make this overly complicated for him, but where he understands it, right? But we know he's smart. Well, how he processes things, how he looks at so much film. But let's make his job as easy as possible, so that when he comes in, we can just allow him to command the office and do what he needs to do. Yes, there's going to be mistakes, but let's not have those mistakes mess things up. And right, and he's going to get better by game six. He's going to be better by game seven, right? And those are going to obviously be very important for him moving forward. Excuse me, and I think should only be able to help him. All right. So the intelligence part, I think, is going to play a major factor in Georgia Tech. And it was one thing I had alluded to was just his main superpower. And I think it's a superpower for him because this is a guy that, I'm saying, you might not be wild by athleticism, you might not be wild by certain things, but to me, the two superpowers he has is accuracy and intelligence. He's gonna be able to do even their offensive coordinator said, or the quarterback's coach said he was able to do 14 checks and he went 14 for 14 in the first scrimmage. Tells you all you need to know. He can check, balance, do the things he needs to do in order to get into the right action and play every single time. It's very important. And then number two is superpower is accuracy. Right? He can get and fit that ball anywhere he wants to go. While that seems underrated, if you can put that ball only where a receiver can get it, that's gonna make you potent and dangerous. I think that's going to only help him. So those are his two superpowers. I want fans to watch out for this year: accuracy and intelligence. Right? Similar traits that Joe Burrow had. Joe Burrow was bigger, obviously, of course, but when he beat you, he's beating you with intelligence and obviously his elite accuracy and being able to put the football wherever he wanted to. He's obviously at one point one of the most NFL or most accurate NFL quarterbacks ever. I think Mendoza has some of those similar traits. We'll see how it pans out this year, but don't be surprised if he completes 65% of his passes this upcoming year. Next up is George Godsey being the offensive coordinator, right? And basically here he just talked about their relationship, right? Going back to the Miami days and Texans and them having phone calls and conversation. And basically everything was centered around Georgia Tech, right? How can Georgia Tech get better, right? From our experience, what can we do, right? And how can we get winning at Georgia Tech as the main thing of what we're going to do, right? And I think the key piece is what he said right here. Probably the coolest thing about it has been that he sees the game the way I do. I see the game the way he does because of the way we're brought up, whether it's staffing, whether it be the delegation of work among the staff and the young guys, and how we're developing young coaches. Why is developing young coaches important? That's important because they're going to be next in line, next in phase. Regardless of whatever happens, coaches also change roles from year to year. You might be looking at a guy like Nathan Brock, who's been calling more plays according to Coach Key. He could be a key centerpiece for you in the future as an offense coordinator. You just never know how these things are going to turn. So I think with Godsey, him having an NFL intellect, obviously having the experience, he's going to be able to get that and mold that into a room of guys that can continue to get better. And when those guys get better, it makes Georgia Tech better, right? And when those coaches are doing what they need to do and they're learning different things and they're growing and perfecting their craft, it goes and it disseminates through the players. All of that is very important. So I think the main thing you were seeing is they on the same page, they're doing what they need to do, and that's going to only make them better at the end of the day. Next thing I want to talk about is Tae Harris. This is a big name that came up, obviously asking the presser. And what was so cool about this was Coach Key basically talked about Tae Harris, like, wanting not to force feed leadership to him, allowing him to do it naturally, right? Allowing him to take it over naturally, not, oh, yeah, we're going to force feed you that. And when he started to be able to do that, things started to kind of click and I was coming to effect. And even talked about, hey, man, like it's on me last year. We should have played him more, right? As a true freshman, but he's going to be playing a lot this year for us. And he talked about him being explosive, him being fast, right? Being very instinctive, right? As a guy that, he believes, is going to be able to take the next step. And I think for him, the communication piece is the most important, right? Having a veteran like Savion Riley back there and those two communicating, going through 30 practices together, it's only going to help this squad moving forward. And I think for them, you need that communication on the back end. But I think the difference this year in the safety room, it's more talented than it was last year. I feel like last year was more top heavy. When you throw Savion Riley, Phoenix Felton, Tae Harris, Jaden Barr, all those guys in there, or not Jaden Barr, but Kamani Morales, all those guys in there, it's a very talented room that has a lot of potential. And I think for Tay, 20 tackles, forced fumble, two passes defense, hard hitter. I think this is the year he blossoms, man. And I think he's all ACC caliber. You know what I'm saying? I think the game slowing down for him, the checks, learning from Coach Benny Sinceri, And I think Tae's going to position himself as one of the best safeties in the country. I really believe this is the year he does it. And I think this is the year that he puts everybody on notice, especially in the ACC, well, how he checks his ability to learn different positions. We talked about it before in previous videos of him learning the star nickel position. If you have a safety that you can move all over the field and he can play star nickel alongside Kelvin Hill, those two can be interchangeable, and then he can play free and strong. Three different positions, that's very important because the safety, as we look in the NFL, like Kyle Hamilton, is playing 4 to 5 different positions. He can cover in the inside. He can also blitz. He can also be effective in the run game. All that stuff matters. And if Tay can be have that kind of effect, I just see a team that's swarming, that's moving around to the ball and making big plays after big plays. And I think Tae Harris is going to be a centerpiece for that this year for Georgia Tech. And I think today was a good example of him or Coach Key believing in him and Coach Key seeing kind of his growth, his maturation. And I think he's one of the defensive side of the ball that's definitely gonna be one to watch out for this year. And I think, like I said, all ACC caliber, and all ACC bound. Last but not least, he talked about obviously the matchup versus Colorado. Now, why is that important? He didn't give too much away, man. He basically just talked about getting ready for this game. Like they're gonna start prepping basically Friday, getting ready. But right now they're just trying to finish out the rest of this week. Thursday they're gonna obviously lift. Big matchup obviously against Colorado Thursday night. And like he said, he gave to me they're just due their respect when it came to Colorado. He said it's gonna be a hard fought football game. New coordinators on both sides of the ball, right? And obviously, influences from each side, Coach O'Leary, Coach Saban, Coach Frigian, and all those guys. And I think, for him, he basically outlined what it's gonna be because there's not gonna be all that trickery, all that other stuff. Like it's gonna be who's better at base offense, base defense, and special teams, right? Who's gonna win in all three phases of the game, right? Or if you don't win in all three, can you win two of the three, right? I think that's gonna be massive and important moving forward, for Georgia Tech. And in this game, you look at can you win in those phases, right? Can you take care of the football? Can you be good situationally, right? Can you make the plays on third down and long, right? Can the defense make stops? Can the defense not allow Juju Lewis to go off, right? Can they stop the running game? Can they slow down the receivers, Cam Perry and Danny Scudero? Like all those questions will come in, but can you win the three phases? I think is one of the biggest things he outlined for this group in order to kind of win this game. In the prep, basically, what I'm saying, it's gonna begin pretty much on Friday. Through a couple things here and there in practice, according to obviously his quote on what he basically had to say. But obviously, Friday is gonna be when they go full bore and full throttle, with the game being less than 6 days, obviously, away for obviously the Yellow Jackets, man. So those were some key things I thought Key said in his presser. I think two I didn't mention it, but an article coming out the offensive line, right? Them kind of maturing, them going against the defensive line, not necessarily getting manhandled, but obviously, taking their lumps, but getting better as it wore on. And now a group that is no longer drinking out of a fire hose, but now starting to kind of come into their own, right? And that's important because this defensive line is much improved, right? They invested a lot of resources into it. They got Jordan Walker, who's gonna be a team captain. They got everything they need in order to be special in this area. But now you got to make sure your offensive line can handle business because you're gonna face stout defensive lines, like I talked about with the Georgias, right? The Clemson will still have a stout defensive line, right? Louisville will have a stout defensive line. Tennessee, I know they lost some pieces in there. Chaz Coleman, I know Rodney Garner said the team has been inconsistent, but they're going to still have a good defensive line. Your offensive line has to be ready to go. And that was such a key component of what Coach Key talked about at the end of last season, going into the spring and wanting to get better with this group and getting the recruits that he did in the 2026 class. Cortland Hurd, Courtney Hurd, and obviously you see it again, him doubling down on it in the 2027 class, getting Jaden Thompson, getting obviously Kyle L. Johnson, Joshua Salmon Pell, Braylon Mills. Like there's a reason he went and got those players. And I think, for this offensive line, he wants it to be right and he wants it to be good. And for that to happen, I think that was why he also talked about the cross positioning. What I'm saying? Cross training all these positions, not just knowing right tackle, but also knowing right guard, maybe even center, right? Not just knowing left guard, but also knowing left tackle. And having a whole bunch of players that can kind of play different positions, which we seen with Keelan Rutledge, right? He was a guy that played primarily right guard, but him being able to know how to play center and left guard helped him when he went to the combine. It helped him when he went to obviously some of these showcases like the Senior Bowl. And then you saw what happened. He went in the first round of the NFL draft, number 26 overall, to the Houston Texans, and it's looking like he's going to start the season for Houston. All that makes a difference. So for Georgia Tech, I think that's what Coach Key is looking at. And he's obviously like, yo, this is what we're going to have to do. Make sure these guys are cross trained, make sure they're good to go, make sure they know what they're doing. And this is how we're going to be one of those football teams this year. I think that's what happened. And I think it's going to be a unit to watch. And we'll see kind of those big holes they open up because from a talent perspective, this running back room is deep. But you gotta have an offensive line that can open up the holes, make it do what it do, and allow them boys to run through them and make big plays. So we're gonna see obviously what happens, moving forward. You know what I'm saying? But I believe the offensive line is much better. But that's all I got for today's video. Those are my key takeaways from Coach Key's presser. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hype up the video, and let me know more content y'all want to see. I will see you guys in the next one. And remember, as always, peace and love.